Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're very happy to have all of you online today for our Lyles College of Engineering, How to Learn Online and Be an Engaged Student. We're very happy to have some distinguished panelists that are going to be leading today's discussion. We want to welcome all students and everybody that's joining us today on behalf of the Lyles College of Engineering. We want to welcome you to the fall 2020 semester. My name is Hernan Maldonado, and I'm the Director of Student Services for the Lyles College of Engineering. So I'm very happy to be your host this afternoon. And once again, we're very happy to have two distinguished speakers today. They're both faculty in the Lyles College of Engineering. We have Dr. Kimberly Stillmaker, who is faculty in the Civil Engineering Department, and also Dr. Aaron Stillmaker, who is faculty in the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department. So thank you so much and for joining us this afternoon. This past semester, we kind of had a practice session to being what it's like to be online and to work and learn online at the university level. And so we wanted to make sure that we start the fall semester on the right, on the right foot and right standing. And so we wanted to provide all of you with this great opportunity to hear from our faculty, to get some tips from them on, how to learn online and how to be an engaged student so that you could be a well-rounded student, and most important, so that you could be a successful student in your academic career here at Fresno State as you start in the Lyles College of Engineering. So we're very happy to have you join us this afternoon. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kimberly Stillmaker. Dr. Stillmaker, are you there?
Yes, we're here. I'm going to need you to give me permission to turn on my video, please.
Okay, let me see. Okay, all right. There you are.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you. So we're actually both here. We share a household, so we decided we'd share a computer.
All right.
All right. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming to our presentation. Today, we're going to be talking to you about how to learn online and be an engaged student. So for those of you that don't know me, hi, my name is Dr. Aaron Stillmaker.
And I'm Dr. Kimberly Stillmaker.
And today, we're going to be talking to you about a number of things. So we're going to start off with talking about who's who in the Lyles College of Engineering, what to expect in an online class, strategies for engaging in an online class, best practices, and how to stay connected in this COVID situation we're in.
So to get started with, the Lyles College of Engineering is headed by Dean Ram Nuna. The Associate Dean is Dr. Jesus Laralde. There are 3 administrative staff positions in the Dean's office. The one who you probably will have the most interaction with if you're, for example, an officer of a club would be Sarita.
Sorry, just switching it over to the correct. There we go.
Got it?
Yeah.
All right. So Hernan, who started this presentation, is the Director of Pathways, which is our student services within Lyles College of Engineering. So everything that he does is to support the success of our students. So please do pay attention, anything that you see coming from Hernan. Also, we have an advising center within Fresno State's Lyles College of Engineering. Lucia Ramirez Munoz is one of our advisors, and we have also another advisor joining her this year. I haven't gotten his picture up here yet, but we have so 2 advisors who you can make appointments with to get academic advising, figure out which courses you need to take, to develop your degree plan, to figure out each semester what you'll need to take to graduate in the amount of time that you wish to graduate in. We have Larry Barnes as our IT liaison. And then Dr. Brisa Quiros is the director of the VIP program. That is an internship program that you may be interested in taking advantage of. They place you in a full-time internship for a total of 12 months during your undergrad career. Then within the college, we have 4 different departments. So your major is housed within one of these 4 departments. The civil and geomatics programs are under one department. And in that department, we have a chair who is Dr. Mungie, and we also have a coordinator who is Dr. Pasha. So that's the only one where we have kind of 2 leadership roles. So the chair is officially responsible for most things related to the department, but if you are a civil engineering major, a lot of the decisions are delegated to the coordinator, and we have a new coordinator this coming year. Dr. Pasha will be taking over in that role. Also, in the mechanical and construction management, we have new department chairs. Dr. Wen and Dr. Wu are starting as chairs in those departments. We tend to rotate the chairs about every 4 years. We have perhaps a change. So this year we have kind of 3 new faces there. Also, each department has an administrative assistant. And so if you need any assistance trying to navigate the university policies or figuring out who to contact about certain things or how to deal with paperwork, these 4 women are excellent resources for you, and you can see their email addresses are below. If you need to get contact information for any staff or faculty, you can go to directory.csufresno.edu. You can type in the name of the individual you're looking for, or you can type in the department that you're looking for. So perhaps you need to get a hold of the registrar's office. You can type that in and it'll bring you up with the emails, phone numbers of different individuals. Just be aware that most faculty are probably not working from their offices, so they may not be checking their phones regularly. So email is probably the best way to get a hold of faculty. Staff, it just depends whether or not they're working from home. So that's the best way to find contact information. So then the next question is, who should you contact if you have a problem? If it's a problem related to a course, which is typically what you would run into, you would want to start with your course instructor. If it's not related to a course, you might go straight to the department chair, but always start to try to resolve things with your instructor. If that is not working out for you, if you feel like the instructor is not able to solve your problem, then you want to elevate it to the department chair. Except for, as I mentioned, in civil engineering, you may choose the coordinator, or you can always contact the chair and they'll let you know if you need to talk to the coordinator. But so the department chair has the ability to solve most all problems, because most of the issues you're dealing with are at the department level. And so if for some reason, though, they cannot resolve your issue in a way that you feel like is in line with the university policies, then you would want to contact the associate dean, Jesus Laralde. And if it still hasn't been resolved, you would contact the dean. So as I mentioned before, the dean is the overseer of the entire college. It's extremely rare that anything would ever need to rise above the level of the dean, but the university does have an official policy to look out for you to make sure that all issues are resolved fairly. And that would be through student affairs. So if after you've exhausted all of the, this chain of command within the Lyles College of Engineering, I encourage you to reach out to student affairs and let them know what issue or concern it is that you're having, and what's taken place so far, and why you feel that isn't the way that it ought to be. And then they will help work within the college to resolve the issue. Now, the president of the university is extremely open to receiving communication directly from students, especially via Twitter. And I think that's a really great thing that the president is willing to do. But I just want to make you aware that really the president deals with campus-wide systemic issues. And so if you see a systemic issue on campus that you think needs to be addressed, by all means contact him. But if your issue is a issue related to a particular instance in your department or your class, he's really just going to refer you back to some place on this chain of command, because these are the people who really have the ability to make decisions to solve your issues. I also want to be sure to address Title IX complaints. It's our sincere hope that none of the students in our college face any type of discrimination or harassment, especially based on their gender. But in the event that you do feel like you are dealing with these types of concerns, you can reach out to anyone in this chain of command who you're comfortable with, whether it be an instructor, chair, dean, or associate dean, or even student affairs. But you also have the ability to go directly to the Title IX office. And all of the employees of Fresno State are mandated reporters. So if you bring one of these concerns to them, they will also refer it to Title IX on your behalf. At that point, you have the ability to decide whether you want it investigated or you just want to drop it. Whatever you want to do, they will work with you to make sure that that happens and to resolve the issue. We also have a number of student support services that I hope you'll take advantage of if the need arises. We have a student health and counseling center. They not only deal with your physical health, but also your mental health. And right now, I think that more than ever, that's going to be a concern that you're going to want to tend to your mental health. Second is our student cupboard. Anyone who is struggling with food insecurity can get the resources they need in terms of food and hygiene products through the student cupboard. Also, the Good Samaritan grant is something that you may not have heard about, but that's a university-funded program where students who have unexpected financial burdens that come up that are getting in their way of being able to continue their education can apply and receive emergency funds that they do not need to be paid back. These are grants to help you deal with those emergencies to make sure you can continue with your education.
All right, so next I'm going to be talking with you a little bit about what to expect in an online class. So just to be completely frank with everybody, online classes are definitely a reality. We know that for the fall. There's a strong possibility that we might even be continuing this into the spring. Personally, I presume just on how things are headed, it seems like a strong likelihood that we might see this in the spring. So it's something we just need to prepare ourselves for. So obviously Fresno State isn't an online university. So it's not the first choice for the faculty, and it's likely not the first choice for the students to be learning in an online system. But there has been a lot of effort that's been put into trying to get the best possible learning outcomes for our students. So I think that we do have an excellent solution that we can do at least as a stopgap until we can come back onto campus. So along those lines, faculty and staff have been working very hard over the summer to give the best educational experience to everybody. We were just told, I believe there are over 900 faculty, which I think is a good chunk. The large majority of the faculty over the summer took time out of their summer to be specifically trained in how to educate online. So we're expecting this is going to be quite a bit different than what you may have seen in the spring semester, where we had to do a really quick 180 to have to bring online instruction. Now we're a little bit more prepared. We know that the whole semester is going to be online, so we'll be prepared, and hopefully we'll bring you the best educational experience we can. But do know that this is going to require a bit of a mental shift for both students and faculty. So like I said, everyone would prefer face-to-face, but we do need to kind of shift the way we think about this. So this is going to require a bunch of a different way of organizing yourself, being prepared, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So a big thing you're going to need to do to expect and get ready for an online class is to get familiar with the tools. So Canvas is the LMS, that's our learning management software that Fresno State uses. That's where just about all communication is going to be handled through all of your courses. Zoom is our video conferencing tool that Fresno State is using. That's something that you will likely have almost all, if not all of your lectures are going to be through that. There's the Google Suite is something that we have through Fresno State that a lot of faculty like to use, Google Slides, etc. Email is a great communication tool that we're going to be using, and likely you've already been using. So something to be familiar with, how you get your email, how you make sure that you don't forget emails, etc. So then we also have calendar apps. So like I said, there's going to be a shift in mind set where we have to worry a lot more about time management. So being up to date with your calendar app is going to be very important. Well as, so a new tool that's starting this semester is a Porto. So a Porto is something that's going to allow you to do a virtual desktop and use a lot of the tools that you'll need in your engineering classes, but your instructors will let you know further about that. So there's two different methodologies that we can use for online schools, two different ways that we can lecture. One's what's called a synchronous lecture. It's where you have a live real-time lecture. Usually it's going to be via Zoom. There's also an asynchronous lecture, which is where you have pre-recorded videos, likely by the instructor, that will likely be posted to Canvas for you to view on your own time. So what to keep in mind for a synchronous lecture is I suggest that you log in early. So being prepared ahead of time so you can deal with technical problems is going to be huge. It'll stop all the anxiety-inducing, similar to when we were trying to log into this, we were a little nervous trying to get everything to work out. So logging in early is a great way to try to fight that. It also works best that we found, especially when I'm specifically talking about in a classroom setting. In a classroom where you're in a Zoom meeting, it tends to work best if everyone keeps their cameras on to increase participation. It helps form a nice cohesive learning community. That's something we'll be talking about quite a bit. So it lets you see your fellow students. It lets your instructor see what you're doing. It kind of helps keep you a little bit accountable to make sure that you're actually focusing on the lecture. So I've had students tell me that they love it, that I required that they keep their videos on last semester. So it helps you engage a little bit. It also gives better feedback to the actual instructor. So something students might not be familiar with is in a face-to-face lecture, there's a lot of two-way communication going on. So the instructor can see on people's faces if they're confused, if they're angry, if they're happy, so they can adjust their pace or reiterate a certain topic as needed. So keeping that camera on and hopefully muted unless you're talking will really help with that. Then definitely ask questions. If it's synchronous, the intention is that you want to have that connection with the students. Just like in a face-to-face class, the raise hand feature is really great for instead of raising a hand as you would in a normal class. That way the instructor can see that on their the screen, and then when they're done with whatever they're talking about, they can address your question. So asynchronous is a little bit different, and this is probably something you're a lot less familiar with. So this is where you have videos that are pre-recorded by usually the instructor, and you need to view them on your own. So this is where it takes a lot of diligence and time management. And what I strongly suggest to you is that you have a scheduled time for each of your asynchronous classes. So that's where you block off specific time that you're always going to be watching the videos. That's a lot better than just saying, oh, I'll slip it in when I want to or when I have time. Then it's pretty easy to get behind if you try to do that. So definitely don't put off watching the lectures. So you might think that, oh, it's asynchronous and people are posting videos, oh, I'll get to it on the weekend. That's not a great idea. So you need to set yourself up for success, and scheduling time to watch those asynchronous videos is how you're going to help do that. Then I also suggest that you don't skip through the videos. So the instructors have all gone through and created these videos because they feel like there's content that needs to be imparted to the student. So you're really just hurting yourself if you skip through them. So something that's kind of useful is we started Panopto is another tool that we're going to start using on campus. And it's a great tool that allows you to share video that instructors can do their lectures using that. It makes indexed voice and text where you can search through lectures. It also has the ability to bump it up to 2x speed. So if you really understand the material, instead of skipping through it, you can instead just have the instructor talk really fast. So just make sure that you're expected to learn the material at the pace set by the instructor, so just don't get behind. I also encourage you, really for both synchronous and asynchronous, but especially asynchronous because it's going to feel a little bit weird, is that you take notes the way you would with a face-to-face lecture. So whatever you normally do to succeed in a face-to-face lecture, you should be doing that as well for a synchronous or asynchronous lecture on Zoom. So especially with the asynchronous lectures, because you aren't able to instantly stop the instructor and ask your questions, you should make sure to write down all your questions you have for the instructor so that during office hours or synchronous class meetings, you can ask those questions. So just something to be aware. So especially with the asynchronous lecture, you aren't going to have just those natural interactions with the instructor where before or after class you can ask a quick question. So you're going to have to be a little bit more proactive about making sure that you get your questions answered by the instructor. So next I'll be talking a little bit about strategies for engaging in an online class. So what I would suggest to you is that you respect each course as you would an in-person course. So you're getting the exact same credit that you would whether this was an in-person course or whether it's online. So you should definitely treat it as such. Just because it's coming through your computer in your bedroom or wherever you're watching it doesn't mean that it's any less of a class. So make sure you participate, you're answering questions, keeping on top of deadlines, etc., to make sure to set yourself up for success. A really big thing that's going to be, like I said, really key is going to be managing your time. So something I suggest everybody take some time out now at the beginning of the semester is determine all of your commitments. We know that most of our students work, they have jobs. A lot of our students are student parents, so they have children that they have to take care of. There are a lot of clubs on campus that people are take part of. And then of course, all the courses that you take. So if you set down with the calendar, figure out exactly where all these time commitments are, then I suggest that you block out specific times for each course. So at Fresno State, we expect that for each unit that you're getting of credit, that's expected to be 1 hour per unit per week of lecture time, and then 3 hours of minimum of external studying outside of that. So really for every unit, you should have 4 hours of time blocked out to work on that particular course. And so if you have a 3-unit course, then of course you should have 12 hours a week set aside for that course. So something else to help you keep on top of things is getting the Canvas mobile app. You can search for it on the Google Play or the Apple App Store under Canvas Student. It's made by Instructure, that's the company that makes Canvas. And it's really helpful. You can get on and you can view announcements, you can respond to discussion board, use the chat feature. That's very useful. Also, make sure that you go in and you set your Canvas alerts so you don't miss anything important, while you also don't necessarily want to be inundated with just a deluge of alerts of things that may not be as relevant for you. So something else that I find really helpful, along with managing my time and keeping everything organized, is syncing my Canvas calendar to my personal calendar, and then syncing my calendar to Zoom as well. So that way all of my Zoom meetings show up on my calendar, all of my calendar meetings that are Zoom meetings show up on Zoom, and then I can keep everything synced a whole lot easier. So I wanted to quickly show you how you can do this. So to configure your Canvas notifications, what you want to do is first log on to Canvas, so fresnostate.instructure.com. You click on your account in the top left of the screen. Then you click on notifications. And then over here, we have the window of all the different email notifications you can get and push notifications. So that's if you have the Canvas student app loaded onto your phone. So really, I suggest everybody should go in here and take a look. The defaults, I think, are maybe a little strong. So you might want to adjust that and make sure that they're set to where you don't miss announcements. So announcements, deadlines, etc. You probably want those to give you notifications. Some of the other things, like maybe posting on a discussion board, might not be as relevant to you depending on your course. So I also mentioned that I suggest that you sync your Canvas calendar with your device. The way you can do this is, again, at fresnostate.instructure.com. You click on the calendar, which is on the bottom left, or the middle left side of your screen. Then down in the bottom right side, there's a little thing that says calendar feed. So if you click that, it'll pop up a window for your calendar feed, and it just has a URL that you can just copy that URL, and then you can paste that into whatever calendar app you use. And then after you do that, everything on calendar, including all the deadlines that the instructor set, will show for you. So do note that most instructors do take advantage of setting the actual deadlines on Canvas, and then this takes care of it all for you. But just be aware that some instructors don't take advantage of that. So if they do, if they don't set deadlines, then they just tell you verbally or maybe with an instruction, then make sure that you set that on your calendar so you don't forget it. Then to sync your calendar with Zoom, which I find very useful as well, you would log into Zoom. So there's the Zoom application. So you can see that it's loaded here in the top right corner of your Zoom. There's a little wheel that's for the settings. Once your settings pop up in just the general section, you want to scroll down and go to the View More Settings. So this View More Settings will open up a web page with more advanced settings for Zoom. So here we've loaded this up with my wife's profile, and we can see that first thing we want to do is click on profile, make sure you're selected there. I think it'll go there. So just side note, this is where you can change your picture as well. So I always suggest that all students and faculty change your Zoom profile picture and your Canvas profile picture. So this is where you do that for Zoom. Then you would scroll down to the bottom. It's kind of a long list of settings. And once you get to the bottom, you'll see this. So there's this button here that says Configure Calendar and Contact Services. You click that, then you'll likely want to select Google if you're going to sync it with your Fresno State calendar with the Gmail suite, and then click Next. So note, once you've synced your Zoom calendar or your Zoom with your calendar, it's great because whenever you create a new Zoom, which might not be as important for students, then it'll show up on your calendar. What's also nice is that the opposite is true. If you if you're blocking schedules to meet, say for your synchronous lectures, if you create that on your calendar and then in the notes, so in the notes section of your calendar, you would put the URL for where to connect to that meeting. If you do that, it'll automatically show on Zoom and it'll give you a nice list of what Zoom meetings you have that day. And then you can just easily join from there. So again, setting yourself up for success, something that's going to be important as we're all going to be learning from home is going to be finding a place that minimizes distractions, of course, as best you can. So this is just ideal situation. We completely understand that most students have completely different situations. Maybe you have roommates, you're sharing a room, maybe you live at home, maybe you have kids, and then we completely understand that. So I believe it was the president that said in a faculty meeting recently that the key for this semester in this online learning modality is going to be grace. So the instructors, we're going to try to give you grace. Hopefully you give the instructors some grace as well, as we're all struggling through this non-ideal situation. So just know that we understand that. So what you're going to want to do is find something that minimizes distractions. So try to find a place that's going to increase your productivity. So maybe for you, that's an office, a desk in a bedroom, maybe your kitchen table you think well, etc. But the key is going to be to set up a routine. So humans, we love routines, and your mind will start to get wired in such a way that you kind of get into a certain zone. So if you have one space that you always go to for all of your lectures and working during your blocked off time, then that will really help you get into the zone and focus. So also make sure before classes start and as they're starting to check your tech. So the Discovery Hub and the Library Lending, they can lend out laptops if you don't have a laptop, tablets, as well as Wi-Fi hotspots if you don't have access to high-speed internet. Then while you're in that class time, I definitely suggest that you focus on the class during that time. So some keys for this. So if friends or family distract you, make sure as best you can to try to set clear boundaries. So if you have family members that are in the same house, if you share your schedule, maybe tape your schedule outside your bedroom door, then they can know not to bother you during those times. So we know a lot of things are completely unavoidable that come up that wouldn't in a normal classroom. So like I said, I know that a number of students or parents and kids can't necessarily respect the boundaries the way we'd expect an adult to. So we understand that, and that's okay. So just do the best that you can. Then I also suggest, and this is a really tough one for a lot of students, including a lot of instructors, is try not to multitask while you're focusing on a lecture. So this isn't really the time for friends, emails, games, work, web, surfing, cooking, cleaning. And this might seem a little obvious, but these are all things that I've talked to students that they said they've done during a synchronous lecture or other faculty that have said that they've seen somebody cooking their dinner during this time. So you should really set aside the time the way you would to a normal in-class lecture. You'd go to that lecture. You wouldn't be cooking dinner while in that lecture. So just try to treat it with the same respect. So what can be useful is an anti-distraction app like Cold Turkey. I know there are a number of them out there, but that's one that I've heard of before that works really well. So also note that if you're in a shared space, I definitely recommend that you use headphones. That'll help with you focusing. Even if you're not in a shared space, if there's ambient noise, it's really useful both for when you're trying to talk, then you won't have reverb necessarily on your computer, and really getting into the zone to learn that lecture. Then also something for you to know is you're definitely not alone. So your instructors really care about your education. So we wouldn't have gone through as much schooling and tried to get such a difficult job as a faculty member if we weren't completely passionate about what we do. So all of your faculty members, all of your lecturers, all your instructors, we're all really passionate about your education. We want you to be able to learn as best you can. So don't hesitate to contact us. I mean, I'd be happy to hear from somebody about any issue that's happening. So please use that contact information, emails to contact your instructors, your chairs as you need. So also note that besides the instructors, you're in a class full of other students in your exact same situation. So what's going to be really key, because especially for those students that are freshmen or first-time transfers that haven't physically interacted with our college on campus, is to try to actively form and participate in these online learning communities. So hopefully your instructor will help foster that for each of your individual courses. but you should also be trying to foster that in your cohort of your students that you're going to continue to learn through your time here at Fresno State. So good ways to do that is using Canvas discussion boards, the Canvas chat rooms, email addresses. So all that should be shared on the People tab in each of your courses. You should be able to see the email and the name of each person in your class. Texting, contacting somebody, getting their phone number. That happens normally in a face-to-face class. There's no reason that can't happen in now a digital class. So I know some faculty use Slack. We heard today about a new program that's very similar to Slack. There's a lot of great communication software out there. So make sure to use those for questions you'd normally ask to your neighbor. So these learning communities, it's great to be able to learn with your partner, with your neighbor, people sitting on either side of you. So obviously that unfortunately won't happen, but we can try to make up for that by trying to communicate with other classmates. Then you need to kind of proactively reach out to other students to grow your network. So it's not going to be as easy as just turning and saying hi to your neighbor, unfortunately. So again, you just need to be proactive about creating that learning community, seeking out other students that you would like to meet, talk with, work with, etc. And then try to grow that network, because it's going to be really vital for your time here at Fresno State, again, especially for those first-time transfers and freshmen. Then another thing that I think is really key to creating a nice cohesive learning community is change your Canvas and your Zoom account pictures to help people put names to faces. So like I said, ideally you want to keep your camera on during a synchronous lecture, but if that can't happen, if it replaces with your face, then that's a lot better than just a gray box. And then on Canvas, again, you're trying to connect to people that you may have never met. So putting a name to a face helps kind of humanize that name. Then once you've done that and you've actively gone out and tried to create this learning community, make sure to leverage it. So everyone's in the same situation. They have the same assignments. Talk to them if you're having problems with conceptual issues. Form study groups the way you would in a normal face-to-face class. Don't hesitate to use those discussion boards or chat rooms or however else you want to handle that.
All right, so I want to just share some best practices with you. So because we're in a virtual format, the majority of your communication with your faculty may be going through email, more so now than ever. And so I just want to make sure that everyone is familiar with this model for professional emails. And this applies not just to emailing your professors, but really any type of professional communication. So you always want to be cordial in your opening, dear professor, last name, not first name. Please don't use first names. So that's how you start your email. The first line of an email, it's always good to recognize a person's humanity. So recognizing that a professor is more than an instructor, that they have a life. So you might just say simply, I hope you're having a good morning. And that's sufficient to acknowledge that they have life beyond the classroom. Then you want to be sure to provide context so that they know who you are. And that's extremely important right now when we're virtual and we're not seeing your face daily and connecting your name with your face. So you want to make sure that you let them know who you are and how they know you. So which course that you're taking with them and perhaps what time and day that meets. If they're teaching two of the same course, just telling them the name of the course may not be sufficient. Then you want to explain the question or concern that you have. And if you're looking for information from the faculty, it's always good that you show them that you've done a little bit of looking for that answer on your own. And that skill translates beyond academia and into your work life. You always want to show that you're doing everything that you can to solve your own problems before reaching out for help. So explain what you've already done to try to find the answer. And really an optimal email will have a proposed solution. I think this is the answer, or I think this is what I should do, but I'd like your affirmation. I'd like to know if that's correct. This saves somebody a lot of time. And so if all we have to do is respond and say, yes, that's what you should do, that's much quicker than us having to come up with the solution. And your future employer will really value this. Anytime you can save your manager time, that is a win. And then finally conclude your email with what exactly it is that you are wanting from the instructor. Are you wanting them to respond with information? Are you wanting them to forward a document to the registrar's office, or what exactly do you need from them? I think that will help you get responses in a more timely manner because it's very clear what it is that you need from the faculty. And just one more thing, I didn't touch on discussion board etiquette. When you're typing in your classroom discussion boards, it's going to be a very different feel than when you're having a conversation in class. You want to try to avoid humor in these discussion boards. As much as we all love humor, a lot of times when it's typed, it can go awry. People don't realize that it's humor. When we express humor, we use our facial expressions, we use our vocal, tone, and those are not present in typed responses. So it's just best to avoid humor. You also want to use complete sentences, avoid any type of text messaging lingo. These should be professional communications. And then lastly, just keep all of your discussion board posts respectful. In our engineering courses, oftentimes we're not discussing matters of opinion, they're more matters of fact, and so there's less chance of us getting in disagreements. But if you ever find yourself having a difference of opinion with someone, please always do so respectfully. I highly encourage you to attend your faculty's office hours. They will be electronic, typically via Zoom this semester as opposed to in person, but that is going to be key for you to get the help that you need. In order to get the link for a faculty's office hours, I highly suggest that you first start by checking the course syllabus and the Canvas. Hopefully it will be posted in one of these two locations. If not, after you've checked them, that would be the time that it's appropriate to contact the professor. And of course, following the format that I just showed you, you'll want to explicitly tell the instructor that you've checked these two places first so that you don't irritate them into, you don't want your first impression to be, why can't the student check the syllabus for my office hour link? So if you need an office hour for someone who's not your professor, perhaps you're trying to do research with them or you want to be advised by them, you should contact your department admin. They should have a list of our office hour information in terms of times and how to get into our Zoom meetings. The other thing that I want to say is I understand that there can be a barrier to asking for help. And I think that especially those of us who are so lost that we don't really know how to formulate the question, or perhaps the thing we're lost about, we are afraid to ask because we should have already learned that in a previous class. But those students are the ones who need the help the most. And as my husband mentioned before, we all went into this profession because we care about students and because we believe that we can make a difference in their lives. And so in the context of a classroom, that means we believe that we can help you learn this material. And so if you come to us and are needing our help, that's what we're here to do. So I have posted here just a couple of questions. You can read them. These are words I'm giving you that if you don't know how to formulate a question, this is a question that you can ask. It's a very vague question, but it gets the conversation started. And once that happens, you will think of more specific questions. I have the life preserver icon here because I just want to remind you that if you were in the middle of the ocean on a cruise post-COVID, and you fall off of that cruise, you are going to wave your arms, you're going to scream, you're going to do anything that you can to get somebody aboard that ship to see that you've fallen off so that they will come back and save you. And I think that's a really important image for you to have in your mind in all of your classes, that if you find yourself falling behind and you feel like the class is moving on without you and you're not able to keep up, do not go quietly out into that ocean. You have to wave your arms. You have to shout for help, because if people don't hear you asking for help, you will not get that help that you need to get back up with the rest of the class. So I've already talked about attending office hours for your faculty, but there are more resources on campus to support you. If you're in a course that has supplemental instruction, I highly encourage you to reach out to that supplemental instructor. The information is here on the slide where you can get the schedules and contact information for their meetings. Supplemental instruction has additional office hours with a student who has taken the course already and done well in that course. And they also host synchronous Zoom meetings where you'll work through problems and collaborate with your peers led by the SI instructor to help you master that course material. The tutoring center in the library is another great resource. They are the best source in terms of science and math assistance. So if you're going through the calculus series or any of the science courses for engineering, they have excellent tutors in the library. Now it's all virtual though. So at the moment you'd want to go onto their website posted here and get that help. The Lyles College of Engineering has our own tutoring service, and this is where you want to go for engineering coursework. So if you are taking any of the engineering courses and you just need someone to ask questions to, we have tutors. The schedule is typically very wide ranging from 9 in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. In the past, they've had tutors there. And so I don't know the exact schedule this semester, but you can go onto the website link here and you can check out which tutor is going to be available via Zoom at which time and which courses they are capable of tutoring for. And that usually depends on the student's major. But those are 3 excellent resources to help keep you on the boat. All right. Academic integrity is extremely important, especially in engineering, where you have a lot of responsibility in this profession to protect the public, and your ethical behavior is paramount in doing that. So now, as a student, is the time that you want to start building that strong ethical base. And the reason that it's showing up in a presentation on online learning is because I know that many, if not most, or all of you are integrous people, and in the classroom would never think of cheating on an assignment or an exam. But when you're in the online environment, the temptation is stronger because there's a feeling that there is less risk of being caught. And I just want to really caution you to fight off any urges you might have to compromise your integrity. Two reasons. One is that your reputation is more valuable than your grade. And I wholeheartedly believe that when you're looking for jobs, you are most likely going to want faculty to support you in terms of serving as references for you. And having cheated in their class is probably going to prevent them from giving you a positive recommendation in the future. So really think of that as your consequence. Second, there are immediate consequences in your courses that students receive zeros on assignments or zeros in classes and have to repeat classes. And oftentimes the small benefit you would get from cheating, maybe you get a few extra points on an exam, isn't worth potentially failing that course. So just keep that all in mind. When it comes to plagiarism, anytime you're using facts or data, summarizing, paraphrasing, or quoting a source, those all need to be cited. And there are references online for how to do citations. There is a plagiarism workshop that Fresno State offers every semester, multiple times throughout the semester. Highly encourage that you self-educate yourself through either the internet sources or that workshop on how to properly cite. Because unfortunately, your reason for plagiarizing is irrelevant. That if you didn't know you had to cite or you didn't know how to cite, that really doesn't matter. You've still plagiarized, and you'll have to face the consequences. Now, when it comes to preventing cheating, the very first thing you should do is to clarify the assignment expectations. Everything being online this semester is a little bit different than normal, and each instructor is dealing with that situation differently. Some instructors may be allowing you to take exams that are completely open book, open note, open internet, and others may not be. And so you really want to clarify for each assignment in each class, what is the expectation? Which resources am I allowed to use? Am I allowed to speak with my peers? Am I not allowed to speak with them? So figure out the ground rules first. Second, complete your assignment on your own. Assuming that the instructor has not explicitly allowed you to work with other students, you should complete your work on your own. And third, do not send your work to other students. Unfortunately, we've seen cases where a friend will ask to see someone's work. They say, oh, I'm just kind of not sure how to start this. Can I see what you did so that I can do my work? And they don't tell the student they're going to copy their work. The student who provides the work thinks that they're just helping them get started. And the reason that we know about this is because in the end, the student who requested the work submits it as their own, and both students get in trouble. Unfortunately, this is another case of your intentions might have been good in lending your work to another student, but in the end, they used it to cheat, and we have no way of knowing what your intentions were, and so both students end up facing repercussions for that. So please, always stay on the moral high ground and don't give in to any of these temptations.
All right, so now we're going to wrap up the presentation by talking a little bit about how to stay connected. So this is really important, like I said, for everybody that now we aren't able to interact on campus, but especially for those freshmen and first-time transfer students. It allows you to have kind of a sense of community that you would normally just build by running into students and friends in the hallway or going into one of the hangout rooms for one of the departments, but unfortunately isn't going to happen. So one of the big key things I would like to suggest to everybody is to connect with your discipline-specific professional organization. So each department has their own organization that have very active student clubs where generally they have their own room on campus, but now you'll have to go to a virtual room. So for example, for civil engineering, they have ASCE. For geomatics engineering, they have SAGE. For construction management, they have students in construction. Mechanical engineering has ASME. And then the electrical and computer engineers have IEEE. So all of these clubs can be found on this website that I've shown over here. If you go to Fresno State's website, the Lyles College of Engineering, and then you go to the clubs and organizations on the side there under the student services, then you can find contact information for all of the different clubs. Then also just a quick reminder, if you happen to be one of the officers of those clubs, make sure that your contact information is up to date there, because you will be getting a lot more students reaching out to you. And then Hernan will be very happy to help update that if needed. Then there's also, besides the professional organizations, a little more socially, there's demographic specific professional organizations. So we have the Society of Women Engineers, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, the National Society of Black Engineers, and the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers. All of those have active student clubs on campus, so definitely get connected with one of those. So we also have, and I'll go ahead and paste this in the chat room. Oops.
It doesn't seem to be working.
Oh, I can't click on that.
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll do it after.
Okay, well, after the presentation, well, I'll paste. So we contacted all these clubs. So 2 of them got back to us. So we'll post the links on how to connect to those on the chat room from those that we got.
For their Slack channels.
Yeah, for their Slack channels. So then I heard from IEEE, they have a Slack channel and they're going to be opening a Discord channel soon. They said they'll post that onto Slack. Then besides that, make sure you watch for emails that are important messages and virtual events. So Hernan put on some wonderful, very well attended presentations and forums, etc. last semester. And I'm sure that he's got a lot more great things planned this semester. So keep an eye out for all of Hernan's emails. They have great stuff on them. Besides that, for specific things to your discipline, make sure to keep an eye open for emails from one of the department admins. So make sure all of that is kept for keeping you informed of important opportunities and requirements. And with that, we wanted to open it up to questions for those that we can answer.
Okay, so we do have some questions already. Okay, and I will, if you can address some of these. I think you've addressed a couple already in your presentation, but one is how do you recommend making a good first impression to our professors? Normally, we're recommended to go talk to the teachers after the first day of class, but in this virtual, but is there a virtual equivalent for introducing ourselves to our professors?
I would say that if your class has synchronous meetings, that would be the best place to do it, to have your camera on. And you can send them, a chat message through there. I discourage you from emailing your professors, just because the sheer magnitude of emails they would get if all the students introduced themselves via email would be inundating. So unless you have a need, I wouldn't necessarily email them, but I would hope that they will have some type of face-to-face communication. If they aren't going to have any face-to-face meetings, I would look through the Canvas, because they probably have a discussion board set up in Canvas. And really, in terms of first impression, if you show that you're engaged in our class, that is how we get to know you. So anytime they have a discussion board posting, fully answer the questions, put your photo, like my husband said, put your photo on Canvas and Zoom so that they can always see your face and connect your name with your face.
Great. We have another question is, during an actual lecture, what would you recommend to students to stay motivated during the actual virtual session?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's something I know a lot of students struggle with. I think that it really goes back to kind of setting up that routine, having a desk in a quiet space where you can focus on that, just the lecture. Make sure you minimize distractions. So it's probably not a great idea to like have your study space be right in front of your Xbox where you normally play games. Instead, think of a specific study space. Maybe it's on a kitchen counter or something where you can completely zone in into that lecture. I think it's also useful, like I had mentioned, like the cold turkey app. So I have something that just kind of stops those distractions. So it's not something, it's something you have to actively do, but just naturally, most people when they're looking at a Zoom video and they maybe tune out a little bit to go surf the web or something. But again, just try to treat it and respect it the same way that you would in a face-to-face class. So think about, if it's helpful, think about your professor standing over your shoulder the whole time and then watching your screen and what you're doing. And then hopefully that kind of motivates you to stay on task, because it is really important.
Yeah, and I don't know if they fully understood what you meant when you said that some of your students thanked you for asking them to keep their video on. I think it was more an accountability. They thanked you for keeping them accountable, because the fact that they knew the instructor was seeing them, they felt like they had to stay focused. I'd say also, when you're in between classes, get up, walk around, go outside. In normal times, you're walking across campus to switch classes. Maybe that means go on a 10 to 15 minute walk in between classes, because your body's gonna need that in order to refocus and be able to stay focused all day.
Okay, great. We have another one is, do faculty typically stay on Zoom for a few minutes after class is done? Like if they would hang out if it was an in-person class? Is that a good time to connect with faculty?
Yeah, so excellent question. So it's going to be a little faculty specific, but I have heard of plenty of faculty that do exactly that. They'll stay 5 to 10 minutes after the class. I even know some that'll stay a little bit later, and then they'll hand off the Zoom control to another student, and then they'll leave the class and then leave it open for students to interact with each other. So I'd say yes. So if they are just shutting it down, I guess as long as they are able to stay, you could try to raise your hand kind of at the end of the class if you had something you wanted to say, and just say, hey, offline after this class, I'd like to talk to you a little bit. I mean, most faculty, as long as they don't have something they're running off to, definitely be happy to sit and talk with you. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that's excellent.
Okay, great, thank you. Another question is, are Zoom office hours scary or less productive than going to see professors in their office?
That's tough to say, because I haven't had it from the student perspective, but I would like to think that it's a little less scary than going into a faculty office. I know when I was a student, it was always a little bit intimidating going into this hollowed room full of papers and books to try to ask an instructor something that you know they're the expert in a field. So the comfort of sitting in your own room when you talk to a faculty member, I think is really helpful. So everyone, all the faculty, again, and I've seen it from both sides. Like I said, I was intimidated a bit as a student going into office hours, but now as a faculty member, I just know that all of us faculty, like I said, we're really passionate about education. We also set aside that time specifically to talk to students. So nothing makes us happier than actually using that time to talk to students. So you should always feel free to come by any Zoom, and hopefully you're not intimidated. I know that some faculty seem intimidating, but I can't think of anybody, any faculty member in our college that I wouldn't enjoy talking with. I mean, all of us are friendly, passionate about it. Even though some might come across a little rough, I mean, we're all here to help you. So,
you know, and I think that's a really good point. Some faculty appear more inviting than others. And I think that that is not necessarily indicative of how much they want to help you. It's just more their their demeanor. And I think that it can be interpreted sometimes as being uninviting. But I think that in our conversations with other faculty, the question that we hear more than anything is, why don't more students come to my office hours? Why don't more students ask for help? And so I think that if you're feeling intimidated, try to remind yourself that that may not be what they're intending to convey to you. Right? That may be more what you're receiving. And I mean, I'm validating that that's a totally normal feeling, but it may not be what they're trying to convey to you. So try to look past that. And I find that these Zoom office hours are actually a little bit more conducive to being productive sometimes, because the students can easily share with me on their screen maybe what they're struggling with.
Okay. Another question is, do you know of any resources for students when they just have a need to sit down and talk to someone in person? There's nothing like someone working with me personally with a piece of scratch paper, making a sketch, or having that one-on-one interaction.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that in-person element is not going to be possible at the moment. But what we can do via Zoom is I can share a whiteboard. So you should all be seeing a whiteboard here. And then right now I'm using my mouse pad, so it's not the best, but I can start typing, different equations. And anyway, if I had my tablet, I could do it a lot more skillfully. So if I know ahead of time that you're wanting to sketch something out with me, I would log on using my tablet. And so then I could start drawing and you could add to it. So we do have technology that allows us to mimic that a little bit, but there won't be any face-to-face at the moment.
Great. Another question is, with someone having all upper division courses for the first time, what would be the most valuable advice you would have for these students?
So I'd probably say kind of two things that I would really reiterate is taking advantage of office hours. We've said that quite a bit and talked about it, and a lot of that is just because of how important it is. So for you, you breezed through all of your lower division courses, but then you get up into upper division classes. For our department, like EC 124, that's a really tough class. And it's unlikely that unless you're just incredibly smart on your own, that you'll be able to succeed without talking to anybody. So taking advantage of those office hours, I think, is key, but also creating that learning community and finding study partners. So to discuss signals and systems, it can be a super intimidating and difficult subject to learn on your own by yourself, just looking at a textbook. So talking to the professor, but also talking to other students, forming study groups, starting to meet once a week. Say you set aside 20 minutes to just talk about the course material before big projects or midterms are due. Try to create a study group with as many people as you can find and talk to them, because you're not alone in this. Other people are struggling with the same problems. And then just working with somebody else is always incredibly helpful.
We have somebody asking is, how does a student sign up for ME email updates? So just want to say that there isn't really, departments will send out emails through the department offices, okay, but there isn't specific major email updates that are, that you'll receive. You'll receive updates from all your professors in your courses, and then we'll send out emails that pertain to the entire college or all students or different specific majors through Bulldog Connect to all students as well.
And yeah, and that's why we said to be sure to pay attention to emails that come from the admin for your department, because if there is ever anything that only applies to your department, it'll most likely come through that admin. And
you don't have to sign up for that. It's just based on what your major is registered with myFresno State. So.
Yeah, well, that's a good point though. If you're planning on changing majors, so maybe you are an ECE major, but you're switching to mechanical engineering, be sure that you submit that paperwork, because on our end, we don't know that you're now a mechanical engineering student, right? So you're going to be getting the ECE announcements and not anything pertaining to mechanical.
Mm-hmm. Does the Bulldog Pantry have resources for new parents, like diapers, infant formula, anything like that?
I think they do.
That's a good question.
Yes, they do. I'm just going to say, yes, they do. Yes, they do.
If they don't, we need to find a resource for the student. So I guess if they don't, reach out to, I personally would be very interested. If you're not able to find that resource, let me know.
Yeah, the Bulldog Pantry does provide resources for new parents, like diapers and formula, and in some cases, baby food as well. So they do have some resources for parents that they can avail themselves of at the Bulldog Pantry. Okay.
Also, I think you could use the Bulldog Success Grant. Is that what it was called? The Good Samaritan Grant. So that's something that we recently just got, the university got a big donation for, and that's specifically for kind of life events that pop up, that like your car breaks down and you can't afford it and you have to use that to get to school, or maybe you have a kid, and I mean, we know we have 3 kids, so they're expensive. So that's something you can also think about applying for.
Very good. Another question that we have is a student wants to know, how do they get their ID cards?
So is it the card office in Joyelle?
Yes.
But I don't know if they are open.
No, I would contact their office though. Ernan, do you know the official name of that office? Is it?
Yes, the student ID card office. That is what it's called. You can contact them. They do have email them to get instructions. They should email them to get instructions on how to get their ID card. But it is an online process. Okay, so they don't have anything in person. Please contact them via email, and they will let you know what the process is to get your ID.
Yeah, and so remember we talked about the directory website, the directory.csufresno.edu. So you could go there to look for the department's contact information. If you ever have trouble finding contact information for one of these departments, I recommend you check with your department admin. They could probably help you locate the proper department.
And let's see, one more question here is, tomorrow I have a class and the professor posted a syllabus for 2019, which is for in-person class. What is the best way to let him know and others know to make sure that to update their syllabus?
Well, that's a good question, because it's possible that they just forgot to update the year on it. That's happened a lot to me.
Or they just, like you said, so I mean, you can copy over old courses, so old files can get accidentally thrown there. It's probably just emailing your instructor and letting them know that they uploaded the wrong syllabus would probably be good.
But if they're going to have live instruction, or if you have an upcoming Zoom meeting with them, I might wait and bring it up there, because it's also possible that they will fix it between now and then. But if you don't have that, then email them.
So not all faculty have turned, so the faculty have to actively turn their Canvas live. So some of you might see your classes on Canvas, you might not yet if they haven't published it yet. But yeah, so I know I'm still working on I just published a few today, but I'm still working on making sure all the links and all the files are updated. So yeah, so maybe some time until the first class would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. And I think we'll address one last question, and the question is, I heard that taking math at the community college is better than trying to get through ALEX and having to start calculus with Math 3R. Is this a better idea? What would you suggest?
This is a big question, and there's not one answer that I can give you, but I will say some things about math. If you have taken, well, first of all, let me explain what ALEX is for those who don't know. ALEX is a placement test. So if you're coming into the university this semester and you are not already in calculus, so say you are in Math 6 or a smaller number, I guess 3R is the other option. So if you're in one of those two courses, you should have had the opportunity, and you still can, I believe, take the ALEX exam, which is a little bit of online review and then an assessment to see where you place, whether you need to be in pre-calc, something prior to pre-calc, or if you can start in Calc 1. So the question is, if I'm presuming you've already taken ALEX and it's placed you in 3R. So from there, you would need to probably work your way through pre-calc and then to calc. And as you can imagine, that extends your stay here at Fresno State. Typically, when you start calculus, you have at least 7 semesters until you can graduate on that critical path of classes, assuming that you pass all of your courses in the math chain. So I don't think it's a bad strategy to go to a city college, and if you're able, now a lot of the city colleges will also have their placement tests, but if you're able to place in calculus at a community college and you aren't able to do that at Fresno State, it's not a bad idea to go and do that, but I caution you that that placement test is not intended to be punitive to you when you come to Fresno State. It's intended to make sure that you have the math skills that you need to succeed in calculus. And so if you don't have those, your ability to succeed here versus community college isn't drastically different, right? You need to establish those fundamental skills. So So it's fine to do that, but just be aware that that placement in 3R is telling you you have a lot of work to do on your end to improve, and there are lots of resources online to help you with that. For example, Khan Academy has a lot of self-paced math exams that you can take. I
do think you have to take the ALEC exam though to get past the class. To move on to the next one. I think that's what we were talking about in the meeting.
To get past what class?
To get out of 3R, I think you got to take the placement exam to get into calculus.
Well, but he's saying he's going to go take Calc 1 at community college and then transfer it back.
Or 3R over there, I think is what he's saying. But either way, I like to recommend students taking math classes at community colleges. It's great, especially over the summer. It's a lot cheaper if you're only taking one course. It's way cheaper than going to Fresno State for a summer course. So yeah, definitely a good thing out there. The other thing to note is the ALEC exam is somewhat new, and there are a lot of discussions kind of in the back end about working out the kinks.
Yeah, and the other thing to be cautious about if you go to a community college and take math over there, because the Fresno State system doesn't see that you're currently enrolled, you oftentimes can't register in the classes that have that as a prereq until you get your transcript from them. So in November, when everyone else is registering for their new science and math courses that required a math prereq, you will have to wait until your community college class gets a grade and gets it posted to your transcript here. And there is another question about if you're in pre-calc, do you need to take the ALEX? Yes. If you are in pre-calc and you have not taken the ALEX exam, you should take that exam, because if you score well enough on that exam to start in calculus, you just saved yourself a semester of time at Fresno State. So definitely go take that exam. In terms of the math department would be the ones to contact. I don't have that link for the ALEX exam, but the math department is the one who administers it. And so if you check with their department admin, or if you, even if you just search online for ALEX exam Fresno State, I think that it'll bring you to a page that has information about it.
And just some quick answers, just because I see them on the screen. Link to online textbooks. If it's all done through the Kennel Bookstore, you can go to the Kennel Bookstore website, and then just put in what class you're taking. It should show up there. If it's an online open access book, you should be able to pay for it and rent it through those links. But as you mentioned, first day of instruction, the instructor will probably go over that with you as well. And then senior design, that's a tough question to answer. So obviously it's going to be all virtual. A lot of people, it's really going to depend on the course and the instructor and what department you're in. Yeah,
for civil engineering, I don't think it'll be affected. Our design has always been conceptual design. We don't do any fabrication, and so I don't think that will be affected. Mechanical engineering, they usually build a prototype, so I don't know.
But they do a lot of design work too.
They do, yeah.
And then for EC, I think most of our senior designs are a little more simulation based. But.
Something just to point out regarding textbooks, some of your class may be a part of what's called instant access, which means you have access to the textbook online immediately through Canvas, but you have to, if you want to purchase the book through that program, then it's automatic. It'll get charged to your account, I believe, on the 10th day of instruction. If you don't want to purchase it that way, if you have another means of getting the textbook, then you need to opt out. And so if you have immediate access, make sure that if you don't want that textbook through Canvas, you opt out before the 10th day of instruction.
Very good. Well, we've addressed all the questions that were submitted, and we are a little bit over on time. So I want to thank Dr. Kimberly Stillmaker and Dr. Aaron Stillmaker for your time. Thank you for this great presentation. Thank you for sharing all these great tips to all the students that we have in the College of Engineering. We recorded this session, and we hope that to make it available to all students and other faculty for future use. And thank you for addressing all the students' questions. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're happy to do this.
It's our pleasure.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for joining us.